Okay guys, what is happening? Welcome back to the channel. Well, the fallout from Henry Nowak murder continues, and once again we are seeing politicians make arguments that many people simply are not buying. Now the exchange you're about to watch is a perfect example of why so many members of the public are becoming increasingly frustrated with the political class. Yes, we are. And as you all know, the release of CCTV footage has sparked a national debate. In fact, it's sparked a debate that's now going across the Atlantic to America. Questions are being asked, emotion running high, and people want answers. We know that they've been protesting outside the police stations as well. And yesterday, during Prime Minister's questions, Nigel Farage was echoed by Labour MPs after raising concerns and what described as two-tier policing in Britain. But the Labour Minister continued to insist that no problem existed. So, let's get into this interview now from Sky News. Does two-tier policing exist? Have you been a victim of two-tier policing? Let me know in the comments down below if you have. I certainly believe that two-tier policing exists. I think that it's favoured towards people of colour. So I'm going to let you know what I think about this video and how I see it through the eyes of a patriotic black man in the UK. Let's get into this right now.
UK?
No.
Why is that?
Well, because, I mean, really fundamentally, I think that is a slur on the thousands of police officers that go out to work every day, putting themselves in harm's way to serve the public, to try and prevent crime and to keep us all safe. So I think that the suggestion, in light of that we have two-tier policing, which suggests at its heart that the police are, on a sort of systemic basis, pushing the interests of one group above another, I genuinely think is a slur on all those police officers that are serving this country day and night, 7 days a week.
Is there an argument that the framework that the police are operating in has created an unequal system? I'm thinking about, for example, the NPCC guidance that says not everyone should be treated equally. The Times and Telegraph reporting today that police officers...
How can you say there's not two-tier policing when it says it in the guidance that people shouldn't be treated equally?
Hampshire felt pressured by mandatory diversity training. 1 in 7 felt controlled or pressured to feel certain ways.
I think, and to be safe, I should have started by saying, actually, in relation to Henry Nowak, you will have seen the footage in the same way that I have of the last moments of his life, and I think that's just, entirely harrowing and just so tragic. And I, felt utterly devastated. And I think, the Prime Minister is responding to that in exactly the right way by suggesting that there are these really serious questions to answer, and that process has begun. That leads me to the guidance that you referred to, the NPCC guidance, and there's also the IOPC investigation as well, which is going on. Look, I think it's the right thing to do that guidance is looked at, because the fundamental principle, as you know, that we have in this country is equality before the law. That is, a fundamental British value up there with respect and tolerance and fairness and democracy and everything else that, makes me proud to be British and, frankly, makes this country great. But equality before the law is the key. And so I think once you've set that as the bedrock, everything needs to stem from that.
And do you agree with the argument that some have been making that there isn't equality before the law because of some of this diversity framework, that different groups should be treated differently? I think I'm right in saying that ministers in the Home Office have said, in relation to the piece of guidance that you're referring to, the NPCC guidance, that there may well be a section of it where the wording is clumsy. I think they've said, and needs to be, which Sarah is wrong. There you go. So that will be looked at. But as I said, I think,
but it's sort of like systemic in the police force now, isn't it? They have been trained to favour people of colour. We know that this is the case, so they've got to rip the foundations up and start from scratch. Can they do that? Probably not.
In relation to that piece of guidance, but also much more broadly and right across the piece in every single area of government.
I think it's a huge problem. There's a race action plan at the moment which says that the police should treat ethnic minorities differently. That's clearly wrong. It's something we've been campaigning against, but it's not just within the police, it's across our public.
It's mad, isn't it? Because if it was on the other foot and, it said that whites should be treated differently within favour, blacks should be out protesting, bending a knee wherever they can, and all this kind of stuff. But put it on the other foot, and where is the outrage from the black community? I don't see much of it. I'm outraged, but I'm only one man. You know, where are the people saying that there should be equality for everybody?
Services, there has been an ideology that has taken hold which says that racism is the worst thing that can happen, but it's not the worst thing. You've seen, cases of murder, cases of child abuse, cases where the people who are meant to protect us from harm have not been able to do that job because they have been frightened of being called racist. So we have to root out that ideology, and we have to let our public services do, which is often a very hard job, which is protect the public from harm.
What are these sort of specific examples that you give on that then?
So you have the case of the Southport killer, where a head teacher said, I think something's going on here, and someone said, well, actually, I think it might be racist to identify this young black man as...
That's crazy, isn't it? That the Axel Rudakabana situation could have been prevented because there were warning signs before that, but they didn't act on it because of his skin colour. They didn't act on it because they didn't want to be seen as racist. And for that, the consequences are the lives taken of 3 young girls.
Who's being associated with knife crime, even though he was. You had the case of the Nottingham killer, where a person with a history of violence was not institutionalised. Why? Because the mental health services were frightened of being called racist. You had the Manchester bomber, where the security guard said, I felt like something was wrong, but I did not raise the alarm because I was scared of being called racist. Yeah. You had the case of Sarah Sharif, a young girl in Surrey who died. And why? Because, again, the social services could spot something was wrong. She was being forced to wear a hijab to cover her injuries, and they did not want to raise the alarm because they were frightened of being called racist. So, yes, there are a number of these cases now, and it all comes back to this point. We are telling these public services to prioritise being seen to be anti-racist over doing their job. It is clouding their judgment, is making their job harder.
So just to be really, because this is so important, right? But what exactly do you want to see happen? Are you calling for a changing in the guidance to show that everyone is treated equally under the law? Or are you saying that actually any diversity training should not be happening?
So there's all of these things. So we have campaigned against that race action plan. We think it is wrong. You should not treat ethnic minorities differently. Everyone should be treated the same when it comes to the law. You also need to reform the Equality Act, something we've been talking about, because again, there are parts of that which tell public services to treat people differently. You also have to get rid of the Islamophobia definition that Labour have just brought in, that I have campaigned against, because again, it is teaching public services to treat Muslims differently. Everybody should be treated the same when it comes to the law, when it comes to penalty, when it comes to privilege.